Hello, good morning, and welcome to another episode of the NUFC Thursday show. News has just emerged that Newcastle have a new sporting director, and fantastic news because it's a really highly rated, really impressive guy who's come in. Paul Mitchell, formerly of Tottenham, formerly of Southampton, formerly of RB Leipzig in the Red Bull Group, and also Monaco as well. Courted by Manchester United before they appointed Dan Ashworth. Really impressive move. He previously distanced himself from the job. And actually, in many ways of where they want to go, he has a better track record than even Dan Ashworth. And the reason I say that is because if you look at clubs that he's been at and the players that he's helped sign, they've all been very proactive, very well suited to a certain model that fits Newcastle and fits Eddie Howe's style of play. You look at Southampton, always had a very good eye for recruitment. That started with Paul Mitchell. He went to Spurs 2015, helped sign Kieran Trippier, helped sign Son Heung-min, helped sign Toby Alderweireld, then went to RB Leipzig, and everyone knows about RB Leipzig and how that's worked. It's not particularly popular across the world, but they are very well regarded in terms of the way they work, in terms of the style of play that all their teams play. Red Bull Salzburg to RB Leipzig, they all play particularly pressing football. Obviously, the Ralph Rangnick model, that's all the style of play, but the head of recruitment was always Mitchell, and they've always signed some really clever players. Haaland, Sesko, Szoboszlai. There's so many quality players that have gone through those systems over recent times, with or without Mitchell at the helm. He has an eye for the right player to play in the right system that fits Eddie Howe's way of working. I think this is a really clever appointment. Came from absolutely nowhere in terms of being announced. Obviously, Newcastle had tried and failed to get Dougie Freedman, who has a great record in terms of transfers from the Championship, as I explained in a previous video. But this is a really huge appointment. 42 years old, former footballer. Injuries cost his career, but he's really gone into being a very data driven, very impressive figure around football. Very highly rated as well. I think that this is a fantastic appointment for Newcastle. It really sets the tone for what could be a busy summer now. I think we can finally draw a line under the Dan Ashworth news. Obviously, he's gone to Manchester United, sorted out. They've moved swiftly to react and get Paul Mitchell in. Whether that had an influence on delaying the Paul Mitchell appointment, who knows? But he's a very impressive operator. The way he's worked across Europe and been, as I say, the key thing is you just need to look at the times he was at the clubs, but also the clubs he was at and how well regarded they are in terms of their systems and their styles of play. He moved to Monaco in 2020. Monaco are another team that have always had a very good youth system. Produced Kylian Mbappe, Aurelien Tchouameni. They've also signed some really clever players in the past. Pre Mitchell, admittedly, but Bernardo Silva, James Rodriguez, Radamel Falcao. They're really impressive that Newcastle have managed to get Paul Mitchell through the door. Very good move, and it really sets the tone for the summer now. And as I say, there's been a lot of negativity and a lot of questions, and rightly so. I think PIF have been quite quiet. Newcastle haven't really commented on much of what's gone on in the last few weeks, which has been quite negative. Losing Tosin Adarabioyo, losing Elliot Anderson last week, Yankuba Minter last week. Obviously, they were very much necessary losses, and also not nearly as bad as it could have been, by the sounds of it. But the Anthony Gordon situation still rumbles on in the background, unfortunately, because of the way that Newcastle decided to move about it. And I think that the fact that Newcastle haven't commented, as I said in my previous video, isn't great for anyone really. And I think that they need to be better than that going forward. But that said, this is a really good appointment, and this is a really clever move from Newcastle. Key to signing Son Heung-min and Kieran Trippier, who went on to be crucial players for Mauricio Pochettino at Tottenham. And again, I just want to reiterate, they're all signings that fit into the right model. And it's at Newcastle, it'll be a different job. They've already got a head of recruitment in Steve Nixon. He'll work with him. He'll work with Eddie Howe. But the track record he's got for signing the right kind of player really bodes well. And the way that those clubs have operated, I mean, you might not like the RB Leipzig model, but it's a very efficient model. That model works very well right down to the bottom of the Red Bull network, and he was crucial in helping smaller clubs like Liefering and grow as well. And I think that shows that the attention to detail he's got. He will be responsible for helping grow the women's team, hopefully, but crucially, he's got to hit the ground running because Newcastle have lost out on nearly half a year's worth of director of football know-how with Dan Ashworth's situation. This is an opportunity, though, to really hit the ground running because his track record is fantastic. I think this is an incredible appointment. It would have been one of the better appointments even when they got Dan Ashworth. I really do believe that he was linked with Manchester United before Ashworth as well. He is a very, very smooth operator. I think this is an excellent appointment. Elsewhere, we've got news on possibly a Miguel Almiron exit. Lots of talks to Saudi Arabia. I think that this one is. I'm very interested to see where this one goes because my information, as I keep saying, is that he doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. That's how the conversations I've had since January when he rejected the move to Al Shabaab. Whether he has changed his mind, who knows? He's not had the best of Copa Americas. He was not very popular with the Paraguay fans. It's not been a very good time for him. He's not really hit the ground running. This is the time for Newcastle to let him go. Whether he senses that and does leave, it's up to him. But same with Callum Wilson. More interest from Saudi Arabia, more possibilities of going there. But he has been linked with also Premier League moves. West Ham are keen on him. There's been links with Europe in the past. In an ideal world, I said on the True Faith podcast, I'd probably keep him, especially now that the PSR deadline is out of the way. But he'll want to leave and try and play some more football. He'll want more certainty in his contract situation because he's only got a year left at Newcastle. So this is probably the end of Callum Wilson. I think he's been told it's the end of him at Newcastle. But whether he goes to Saudi, whether he goes to Europe again, remains to be seen. Not so many incoming links at the moment, but again, Newcastle is still hunting for that right winger. They're still hunting for the centre back, Malik Thiaw. More links with him this week. Ricardo Calafiori looks a little bit like he's out of Newcastle's range now because he's been linked with Liverpool and Arsenal. As I previously mentioned, Newcastle don't like getting into bidding wars for players, especially with clubs who can pay bigger wages for them. There's a really good podcast we did on the True Faith Patreon last night on the wages situation. So do go and listen to that if you are a patron to the True Faith podcast. That's more likely to go for someone like Thiaw because of that video I explained last week. He fits the bill perfectly. But it's not really about names at the moment because Paul Mitchell's come in. I think Paul Mitchell's a really, really exciting appointment because of the players that he's bought, because of the clubs he's worked at. They all operate in a very similar way to the way Newcastle want to operate in terms of on the pitch, the playing style, the attacking, high press, high energy, but also off it, and in terms of growing more about the team, possibly looking at a multi-club model as well. That's been mooted. He's very much used to working in that environment. I think that Paul Mitchell is the man to take Newcastle forward. It draws a line under the Dan Ashworth situation as well, which is fantastic news. Really, really good appointment. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm still looking for 50 likes on a video. All the constant support, though, really does help. I've got up to 365 subscribers. I really appreciate all the new subscribers every time I do one of these videos. It really, really helps the channel. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.